2.2 Indian Historiography Various Ideological Frameworks. So, ideology is nothing but or a particular idea group of people can be seen. So that we have got to see colonial historiography. By this you will be knowing, saying that this historiography has been got developed or written by the British. Next to that, Orientalist historiography. Their main idea is to know about Eastern culture in particular. And same period, nationalism grew up here in India, led for development of nationalistic historiography. Actually, if this nationalistic spirit wouldn't have been got developed, and some of the writers, if wouldn't have taken the work of writing history of India, most of the time a lot would have been brought under soil by this hour. So we have to thank especially these nationalistic historiographers who actually thought of making world to know about a rich heritage of India through their writings. Next to that, we are going to learn about the historiography in the post-independence era. That means too much modern periods of history and for what they had given importance and how different ideological frameworks have got developed. Next to it, we are going to study that. Okay, now colonial historiography. The early scholars who studied and wrote Indian history were mainly British officers and Christian missionaries. Their prejudice is clearly reflected in the way some of them have ridiculed Indian culture. Their writings were used to justify the colonial British rule. The 5 volumes of Cambridge History of India, published during 1922 to 1937 Common Era, are distinct examples of colonial historiography. That means you have come to know the main objective of writing is nothing but to ridicule Indian culture and to show the importance of British rule here in India. Means they intentionally wrote in such a manner that the colonial rule of the British are actually of a good form, and by the by, purposefully, intentionally, they actually ridiculed Indian culture. means उपहास करणं, म्हणजे त्यांचं कल्चर चांगलं, त्यांचं रूल चांगलं असं त्यांनी एक्झिबिट केलं आहे त्यांच्या रायटिंग्समध्ये. आणि इंडियाचा पूर्णपणे ॲज अ होल कल्चरच ह्याच्याबद्दल त्यांनी उपहास करून लिहिलेला आहे, असं इंटेन्शनली ह्यांनी लिहिलेलं आहे. त्या प्रकारचं ॲक्च्युली हिस्टोरिओग्राफीला आम्ही ह्या ग्रुपमध्ये टाकतो आहे की कॉलोनियल हिस्टोरिओग्राफी. त्यांचे मेन इंटेन्शन काय नाही, कॉलोनियल रूल ऑफ ब्रिटिश इज व्हेरी गुड असंच दाखवून देणं होतं प्रपंचाला. त्यामुळे 1922 to 1937, near about 15 years, this kind of historical writing was in practice here in India. Next to that, Orientalist historiography. Many European scholars felt curious about civilizations and countries of the East. Some of those scholars felt admiration and respect for them. These scholars were known as Orientalists. आता तुम्हाला कळलं असेल ओरिएंटॅलिस्ट म्हणजे कोण. ओरिएंटॅलिस्ट सुद्धा युरोपियन्सच आहे, बट देअर ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह इज टू नो मच अबाउट ईस्टर्न कंट्रीज अँड देअर सिव्हिलायझेशन. म्हणजे कसं काय ही माणसं सिव्हिलायझेशनकडे चालली आणि कसं काय ते जगत होते हे सगळं समजून घेण्यासाठी खूप क्युरियस होते. आणि चांगल्या गोष्टींना त्यांनी ॲक्च्युली ॲप्रिशिएट पण केलेलं आहे. दे हॅव ॲडमायर्ड अँड ऑल्सो रेस्पेक्टेड दी गुड थिंग्स ऑफ दी ईस्टर्न कंट्रीज. So these scholars were known as Orientalists. The Orientalists studied the similarities between Sanskrit and some of the European languages. They focused more on Vedic tradition and Sanskrit literature. Their studies resulted into formulating the notion of an ancient language that could be the mother of all Indo-European languages. Look about these Orientalists actually tried to know much about Sanskrit language and literature, particularly even of the Vedic tradition. We Indians here believe that in this Hindustan from very long past, Sanskrit was the language used in practice, and also it had been got considered as the language of God. To such extent it has gained much importance here in India, and by the study of Europeans they also tried to prove the well-known statement saying that Sanskrit could be the mother of all Indian as well as European languages, Indo-European languages. That's what. So to this extent they have tried to know about Sanskrit as well as Vedic traditions. In 1784, Sir William Jones founded Asiatic Society in Kolkata. It opened the doors for research in ancient Indian literature and history. Look about one of the Britishers by name William Jones. He founded Asiatic Society in 1784, and due to which what happened? Actually, doors were opened for research work in ancient Indian literature and history. That means it actually helped those scholars to reach here and to go for research work with that of India's history and literatures available. Among the Orientalist scholars, Frederick Max Muller deserves a special mention. In his opinion, Sanskrit was the most ancient language of the Indo-European languages. He was deeply interested in Sanskrit literature. He first translated the Sanskrit text of Hitopadesh. He was the editor of 50 volumes of the sacred books of the East. See how proud we should be. An European who entered India studied well about Sanskrit language, and he opines saying that it is the language which is nothing but the ancient language of the Indo-European languages, means it is the mother of all the languages, what he says of the Europe. And also he translated Hitopadesh from Sanskrit. He was the editor of 50 volumes of the sacred books of East. He also compiled Rigveda, which has been published in 6 volumes. He translated Rigveda in Germany. You look about means Frederick Max Muller, what kind of work he did after coming here to India. So that students, we must know that after having some knowledge about Sanskrit, we must try to read our ancient scriptures as well as literature of Sanskrit to know to what extent India was rich with all kinds of arts as well as science, which was in need of leading a पीसफुल लाईफ. ही संस्कृत भाषाच एवढी सुंदर असते आहे, आणि त्या संस्कृत भाषेमध्ये ठेवलेला प्रत्येक श्लोक असेल तर तो एवढा ज्ञान भरून असलेला आहे की त्याच्यामध्ये सगळ्या लाईफ स्किल्सबद्दल आहेत, स्किलमध्ये आम्हाला कळून येतं. तसंच आर्ट्स, कला काय काय पाहिजे असतात अंगी करून गेला पाहिजे, आणि सायन्स म्हणजे ऑलमोस्ट ऑल फील्ड्स. असं नाही की फक्त ॲग्रिकल्चरलबद्दल सांगितलं आहे. ऑलमोस्ट ऑल सायन्सेस आर इन्क्लुडेड इन दस संस्कृत लिटरेचर्स ऑफ आवर इंडियन लँड. त्यामुळे आपण किती रिच होतो, आणि आपल्याला ॲक्च्युली हे फॉरेन इन्व्हेडर्सनी कसं काय ॲक्च्युली गुलामीकडे नेलं आहे, किंवा हाऊ दे मेड अस स्लेव्स, हे आपल्याला कळायला पाहिजे. तर ह्याच्यासाठी आपण ॲटलिस्ट इंडियन्स ऑथरचे बुक्स नाही वाचलं तरी जाऊ द्या, इंडियन्सनी लिहिले असं म्हणतोय आपण, बट हे फॉरेन ऑथर्सचे बुक्स शक्य आलं की तुम्ही लायब्ररीमधून वाचायला पाहिजे. ई लायब्ररीज अवेलेबल आहेत, म्हणजे तुम्हाला कळेल त्यांनी आपल्या पुस्तक वाचून काय ओपिनियन दिलं हे तुम्हाला समजून येईल. तेव्हा यू विल फील प्राऊड अबाउट अ इंडियन लँड. लेटली एडवर्ड सेट, a scholar who has re-evaluated the Orientalist writings has thrown light on imperialistic interest of Orientalistic scholars. त्यामुळे एडवर्ड सेट हे ॲक्च्युअली एक छोटंसं पॅराग्राफ कुठून तरी उचलून दिलं आहे, त्यामुळे पूर्णपणे इथे मिनिंग मिळत नाही आहे. एडवर्ड सेट, अ स्कॉलर हू हॅज रिइव्हॅल्युएटेड दी ओरिएंटलिस्ट रायटिंग्स has thrown light on imperialistic interest of orientalist scholars. असं सांगितलं गेलं आहे. कोणतरी एक स्कॉलरनी असं पण सांगितलं आहे की ओरिएंटलिस्टनी लिहिलेल्या पुस्तकं वाचताना त्यांचं इम्पिरियलिस्ट इंटरेस्टसुद्धा कळून येतं, समजून येतं असं सांगितलं गेलं आहे, असं सांगितलं आहे. ओके, नेक्स्ट टू दॅट नॅशनलिस्टिक हिस्टोरिओग्राफी. दॅट मीन्स आवर ओन इंडियन्स, इन पर्टिक्युलर महाराष्ट्रियन्स, how exactly they have tried to make people to know about the glory of our ancient India. That's what we are going to learn